In 1998, a man stood in front of 250 employees at a holiday party and shouted, "I've never seen so many millionaires in my life." He was talking about people who sold stuffed animals. He was right for about a year. Then the thing they'd all bet on lost 98% of its value, and the millionaires went back to being people with garages full of plush toys. By the end of this video, a grown man wears a $5 million trading card around his neck to a boxing match, and even that story isn't as strange as how it ends. These are 5 things people were absolutely certain would make them rich. Watch how sure everyone was every single time. Ty Warner made small plush animals filled with plastic pellets. They cost $5. Then he limited production and retired designs, so people believed they were rare. And by 1998, he was selling over $1 billion a year. People didn't buy one. They bought cases. And the bear they fought hardest over was Princess Diana, released after her death, which everyone knew was the rare one. Except it wasn't. Ty had told retailers they could only order 12 of the Diana bear each for Christmas, a shipping decision. A rumor turned 12 per store into only 12 exist, and the frenzy wrote itself. Millions were made, but the rumor was already moving faster than the truth. People weren't just buying the Diana bear now, they were buying multiples, 10 and 20 at a time, because if it was going to fund a retirement, why stop at one? The thing they were hoarding to get rich was the exact thing making it common. Today, that bear sells for somewhere between a few dollars and $100, depending on condition. The listings you'll see for $500,000 are fake. A collector site that tracks them thinks some are money laundering fronts. The retirement fund is worth about the price of the lunch you'd eat while looking it up. Here's the part that matters. The toys didn't crash, despite everyone keeping them in perfect condition. They crashed because of it. Nobody played with them, nobody threw any away, so millions survived in mint condition. You cannot get rich owning the same thing as everyone else. You'd think this was a one-time mania. It had already happened with cardboard. In the late 1980s, baseball cards stopped being things kids flipped and became things adults bought as investments. The card companies noticed, and they printed accordingly. By 1986, Topps alone was making over 1 billion cards a year. By 1991, the industry was pushing more than 5 billion. Parents bought whole cases, stacked them in closets floor to ceiling, and didn't open them because an unopened case was the investment. That was the mistake nobody saw. Every parent doing this was sure they were early. All of them were doing it at the same time in the same year, buying from the same companies who were printing as fast as the presses would run. The people who thought they were ahead of the crowd were the crowd. A 1988 Donruss card of a common player got printed so many times that there are now more copies in existence than there are human beings who want one. A full sealed box sells today for about $8. Not a card. The box. It's the toys again, wearing a baseball cap. Value comes from scarcity, and there is nothing scarce about 5 billion of anything sitting in plastic sleeves. The tuition fund didn't lose to bad luck. It lost because everyone had the identical idea in the identical year. You can watch the industry learn it in real time. By the late 90s, they were printing numbered runs and one-of-one cards, manufacturing rarity on purpose, because they'd proven that without it, a card is just a rectangle. Cardboard players. Next, cardboard superheroes. The early 90s, and the same logic hit comics harder, because comics came with a promise. A 1962 first issue was worth thousands, so a 1990s first issue obviously would be too. Marvel leaned all the way in. X-Men #1 shipped in 1991 with 5 different covers and sold 8.1 million copies, largely to the same collectors, buying one of each so they'd have the set. A year later, DC killed Superman, sealed the issue in a black poly bag with a mourning armband, and moved millions of copies that people handled like an artifact behind glass. One speculator bought 2,400 copies of X-Men #1. He was going to flip them for a fortune. 2 years later, each one was worth less than the cover price he'd paid, which means his profit on 2,400 comic books was a number smaller than zero. And Superman #75, The Death of Superman, an actual national news story, is worth less today than it cost in 1992, unless it's graded in flawless condition. The most famous comic of its generation can't beat its own cover price. And it's not rare. DC printed so many that the Special Collector's Edition is one of the most common comics in existence. The thing people bought because it was historic is worthless because everyone else bought it for the same reason. Then the whole thing came down. By 1996, collectors worked out that a limited edition printed in the millions is not limited. The speculators left. Marvel filed for bankruptcy. Thousands of comic shops closed their doors for good. An entire industry nearly died because everyone bought the same certainty by the caseload and stored it lovingly. Toys, cards, comics, easy to call this a 90s problem. Except it happened again, with something that doesn't physically exist. A Bored Ape was a picture of a cartoon monkey generated by a computer. Not a painting of one, a file. The kind of thing you can right-click and save. At the peak, the cheapest one cost around $429,000, and celebrities bought them the way they'd buy a watch, as something to be seen wearing. Justin Bieber bought his in January 2022 for 500 units of Ethereum, about $1.3 million. He was mocked for it immediately because he'd overpaid for one of the plainest apes in the set, but he had one. By early 2026, that same ape was worth around $12,000. He paid over $1 million and watched 99% of it disappear while it sat in his wallet. He could have bought a car. He bought a monkey a computer drew, and the monkey depreciated faster than the car would have. And Bieber wasn't the cautionary tale. He was the pattern. Every celebrity who bought one did the same thing on the same timeline. They flashed them as profile pictures, told everyone this was the future, and the more famous the buyer, the more ordinary people piled in behind them. The endorsement was the trap. By the time you'd heard of it, you were the exit. You already know the mechanism, because it hasn't changed once in this whole video. The apes felt rare because they were expensive, not because they were few. The hype cooled, everyone reached for the exit at the same moment, and the floor fell out, leaving the whole collection down about 90%. The company that made them started laying people off. A co-founder admitted they'd lost their way. Same certainty, new decade, no garage required. 4 for 4. Every generation finds the thing that only goes up. So let's talk about the one happening right now. The one that already crashed once and came back anyway. Pokémon cards arrived in 1999 and detonated. Prices went insane. Kids and speculators bought everything in sight. Then, in 2001, it burst. Cards that sold for hundreds dropped to $10. People threw whole collections in the trash. Shops that had loaded up on inventory folded. For most of a decade, it looked like a dead fad, the Beanie Babies of trading cards. And then it came back, bigger than the first time. In 2020, lockdowns and nostalgia and one very loud YouTuber collided, and prices blew past every high from the original craze. A first edition Charizard that had traded around $20,000 before the boom hit nearly 400,000 at auction in 2021. Logan Paul wore a first edition Charizard around his neck to a boxing match, then later set a world record buying a different card, a Pikachu Illustrator, for $5.25 million in a private sale. The cards people threw in the garbage in 2004 were worth thousands by 2021. The people who held the dead fad did extraordinarily well. And this is where the pattern finally does something new. Because Pokémon didn't just crash or just survive, it split in two. The modern cards, the new sets people are buying today, are falling 40 to 60%, and analysts have a name for it: junk wax, the exact insult from Rung 2. But the genuine 1999 Grails went the other way. That record Charizard sold again in December 2025 for $550,000, a new high. So one group of people bought Pokémon and got Beanie Babies. Another group bought Pokémon and got the one collectible in this entire video that actually held. Same franchise, same certainty. Opposite outcomes, and the only difference was which cards they were sure about. That's the thing nobody buying today wants to hear. Every person in this video was certain. The Beanie Baby people were certain. The tuition fund parents were certain. The man with 2,400 comics was certain. Justin Bieber was certain. Some of them were even right. That's what makes it so hard to stop. Because the ones who got rich and the ones who got wiped out were doing the exact same thing. They just found out which later. So were the millionaires with the stuffed animals.